Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every single day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording today's episode on Monday, December 18th. Joining me, as always, is Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Economists don't talk about what they get wrong. They kind of just sort of like plow forward. Never mind what I said before. Listen to me now. You didn't get a whole lot of things wrong in 2023. In 2023, you got a lot of things right. And of course, you spend a tremendous amount of your time focused on the housing market. But let's kind of go through the wins for Dr. O in 2023. What do you think you nailed?
Well, let me tell you why most economists don't come out and talk
Let's talk about that.
Well, the first thing is, I think the lesson I learned at least is that we should get out of the business of trying to predict things. The idea, we should be trying to understand things, not trying to predict things. We're trained to learn and to try to understand and make sense of things, not try to predict the future. It's kind of foolish, to try to predict the future. But anyway, we could talk about the different states of the world, where we think the world could end up, and then we could talk about those different states of the world and how maybe we should, as consumers or business people, we should prepare for these different states of the world. I think that's better than just sitting there claiming you have some sort of crystal ball and that you'll be able to tell us what's going to happen in the future. But anyway,
I agree with that approach.
That's what I learned anyway.
So all right. So enough humility here and enough humbling. I do appreciate your process, and I think that one of the reasons why you're as respected as you are among your peers and among those that follow your work is that you are sincere. But let's do a little bit of bragging. What did you get right? Well, housing prices for this year.
The bottom line is everything in housing. I mean, back in November of 2022, when the housing market was in a deep freeze, and everybody thought, there was not going to be any kind of housing in 2023. We got a rebound in housing starts at the start of 2023. We got transactions came back. Demand came back. I mean, the only issue that we had in 2023 was the fact that supply didn't come back as strong, right? Existing homeowners kind of stayed on the sidelines. And as a result, we had fewer sales in 2023 than we had in 2022. And maybe that's the part that I got wrong. I really didn't expect the drag of existing homeowners becoming such a drag on the housing market. That I did not expect. But everything else, the fact that, since before the Fed even began raising interest rates, I made the call that, there was not going to be a price crash. And I think in 2022, some of the crazy YouTubers started laughing at me because they thought at the end of 22, they thought, hey, prices are declining. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. And then all of a sudden you got this rebound in housing activity and prices.
We're still hearing about that. There are still people that are saying that everything's going to fall off a cliff here in the next couple quarters.
There's still people claiming that things are going to fall off a cliff. But the reality is you look at the fundamentals and you see so much demand coming from these millennials, and they're forming new families, coming from immigration rebounding post-COVID. The number of new families coming into the U.S., all of that is supporting demand. And then you have wages adjusted for inflation that had fallen, coming back, rising again. You have wealth that had fallen in 22, rising again. You have all of these factors. You have a strong labor market. All of these factors supported housing. And guess what? Look at now. Housing, real estate is kind of leading the way. You look at equities, you look at real estate is leading the way as a soft landing becomes more and more likely, and mortgage rates ease, and the consumer stays strong. Well, real estate is just leading the way, and we're seeing that. We're seeing people like Stephanie Link on CNBC Halftime Report come out and say, "Look, housing is one of my favorite themes in 2024." That's the way it is. But anyway, that's what we got right. We got housing right in 2024. And I mean, there's even this whole soft landing thing. I think
you're burying the lead. I think that the soft landing had an awful lot to do with the housing industry, and that you're thinking about sort of the economy as a whole, that being a collective of people and the activities that occur inside of it. Of course.
I remember, let me tell you a funny story. I remember going to teach a class for a friend of mine who teaches a course, an economics class at Northwestern University, just north of Chicago there in Evanston. And I remember he asked me to come and teach a class for him. And this was like, I think maybe March or April 2022. And I remember at the end of the class, he asked me, and some of the students asked me if I believe we were gonna end up with, going into a recession, or if the Fed would be able to achieve that soft landing. And I remember talking about that and just talking about the reasons why I believed at the time that we actually might be able to actually land the plane safely this time around. And it's just a beautiful thing to see this actually develop. Without a big increase in the inflation coming down, without a big increase in the unemployment rate. It's even better than I thought, because at the start of this year, I thought we'd get at least some sort of mild downturn, and we didn't even get that. We come out of 2023 better than we were in 2022, better off. And so congrats to, I guess, the Fed for doing such a great job, bringing the planes down safely. Some people might argue, "Hey, we're not fully there yet," and I kind of agree. We're not fully there yet. We'll see what happens next. That now that the market overreacted, will the market overcorrect itself after that overreaction from the Fed, the Fed meeting last week? So we'll see.
Well, I do appreciate your thoughts, and we probably could have made this a much, much, much longer episode. I think you're still being a little bit humble. Yeah, I mean, I think you got some of the big picture stuff right, and you really didn't change course. You didn't windsock, when some data points came out that might suggest that we were headed in a different direction. I feel like you sort of held course, and you absolutely brought value to people out there that are just trying to understand what's going on. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other high-quality podcasts at americastalking.com.
Are you tired of news that puts politics over people? At the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation, we believe in putting people over politics by delivering nonpartisan news and audio content that serves you, the American taxpayer. With Franklin News Foundation, you can read fact-based, state-focused news for free at thecentersquare.com. You can listen to civil, balanced conversations between policy experts through our podcast network at americastalking.com. Or you can get in-depth news on K-12 education spending, curriculum, and school safety at chalkboardnews.com. It's all free through Franklin, where we put you, the American taxpayer, first in every story, episode, and conversation. And it's only possible through our supporters. Together, we can produce content that puts people over politics and brings Americans the news they deserve. Become a supporter today at franklinnews.org/donate. Once again, that's franklinnews.org/donate.